the daylight. This is nocturnal news, born from insomnia and purpose, fueled by silence, sleepless nights, and a hunger that won't let go. I've spent countless hours chasing fragments, diving into NASA's archives, reading between the lines, piecing together what was never meant.
All right, just to name a few. Of course, we could go back to the biblical days when talking about the unknown things in the sky, but we're going to go back to maybe the 30s, 40s, 50s. Project Sign 1948, an early Air Force program focused on studying UFO sightings. Project Grudge 1949 replaced Project Sign. You guys probably remember that, with a focus on gathering data and assessing the threat posed by UFOs. It's always a threat, right? Project Blue Book, 1952 to 1969, the Air Force primary program for investigating UFO sightings. Robertson Panel, 1953. Condon Committee, 1968. And then, of course, the all-famous AATIP, AATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, 2007 to 2012, a $22 million tax-funded UFO secretive program reportedly initiated by Senator Harry Reid that aimed to investigate and understand UFO sightings. Now, of course, we have UAPTF, United Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force 2017 to 2022, and I believe that replaced AATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a Pentagon program focused on collecting and analyzing reports of unidentified craft, okay? And then now AARO, which is actually decent, AARO, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, 2022 to present, the current U.S. government office tasked with investigating and understanding UAPs, replacing UAPTF. Again, the UFO topic has been just embedded in our history, going back generations, going back decades. 1948, Project Sign, 49, Project Grudge, okay, again, replaced Sign 1952 to 1969, Project Blue Book, 1953, the Robertson Panel, 66, Congressional Hearing on UFOs, 1968, the Condon Committee, again, that's Hynek, 1969, another hearing in Congress, 94 to 97, Air Force releases official reports on the Roswell incident, one of my favorite, 2007 to 2017, AATIP, dates disputed because it was a, air quote, secretive program. 2017 to 2022, UAPTF replaced AATIP. Again, another congressional hearing on UAPs. 2022, you have the NASA UAP study team and AARO replacing UAPTF. Present congressional hearings on UAPs 2023, and it goes on and on and on. So the roots of ufology include mystery airships, okay, of the late 1980s, the Foo Fighters reported by Allied airmen during World War II, the Ghost Flyers of Europe and North America during the 1930s, the Ghost Rocket Scandinavia, mainly Sweden, 1946, and the Kenneth Arnold flying saucer sighting in 1947. And of course, my all-time favorite for many reasons, Roswell, and by proxy, you could say Area 51. The term flying saucer gained popularity in the 1940s following the sighting of Kenneth Arnold, who described it as a crescent-shaped object moving at high speed. And, you know, kind of shifting gears here, getting into maybe more of the cultural impact, ancient mentions, reports of unusual celestial events have been documented in ancient texts from various cultures, with some interpreting these sightings as omens or divine communications, right? I mean, from the gods, Ezekiel's will. There's just so many cave drawings. Or the connections with ancient Egypt, the pyramids, and the Giza Plateau. And of course, you know, things like Mars, Venus, you know, just planetary science in general, the galaxy, the universe, the multiverse, the Hubble telescope. All of these major humankind milestones have UFO sightings attached to them. Just think about it. Almost every major human accomplishment has UFOs in there somewhere. Post-war era. Following World War II, the development of rocketry in the Cold War, climate-fueled speculation about advanced, potentially extraterrestrial technologies, leading to increased reports of UFOs. Okay, Project Blue Book. The U.S. Air Force established Project Blue Book in 1948 to investigate UFO sightings, but the project concluded, right, here we go, drum roll, in 1969. This was Hynek, I believe, with no evidence to support the extraterrestrial origin. Key events and developments. Roswell, the Roswell incident, 1947, event involving the crash of a flying saucer, too, in fact, I think, in New Mexico, became a significant focal point for UFO enthusiasts and sparked ongoing debate about the nature of the, well, it says object, what I'm reading here. We're going to say of the UFO. And of course, public interest. Okay. And this is kind of where I come in. The media coverage, UFO sightings, and the concept of ET life captured the public's imagination, influencing pop culture through books, films, and TV shows. Continued investigations and debates, despite official investigations like Project Blue Book, the UFO phenomenon continues to be a subject of ongoing debate, and boy, it does it with proponents of extraterrestrial explanations and those who attribute sightings to more of a mundane cause. Evolution of terminology. Okay, guys, we're just going through the history here. UFO, the term unidentified flying object, was coined, and I don't know if you guys know this, but by the United States Air Force, USAF, to replace the more sensational flying saucer. That's kind of how like our grandparents call it. So aiming for more of a neutral and scientific description. UAP, more recently, the term unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP, has gained traction, seeking to broaden the scope of inquiry beyond extraterrestrial explanation and encompass all unexplained aerial events, mainly because the UFO topic was stigmatized, and if you said UFO, people look at you like you are crazy. So the term UAP has become more, I guess, socially acceptable. In recent years, there have been renewed government interest in UFOs, with studies and investigations undertaken by agencies like the Pentagon, DoD, and the United States Air Force, of course, NASA, SpaceX. The list goes on and on. Again, the stigma associated with UFOs has been gradually diminishing. Okay, moving forward, 1952, I'm making a video about this actually, the Washington Flap, expanding all the way through 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Okay, another famous case, Phoenix Lights. You have Rendlesham Forest, the USS Nimitz, Go Fast, Gimbal, and the Tic Tac, and of course, the Apollo files, the NASA files, and I would say most importantly, just the eyewitness accounts. If you look, at these websites devoted to documenting these sightings, you will quickly learn there are literally tens of thousands of sightings and cases that you've never even heard about throughout the country, throughout the world for that matter. And look, here's the thing, guys. I don't really have time, and I don't want to bore you to death, just to get into all the other countries and governments that have their own programs outside of America, but just to name a few. So aside from, the American efforts, the only other official and fairly complete records of UFO sightings were kept in Canada. Not the only, but one of the biggest, where they were transferred in 1968 from the Canadian Department of National Defence to the Canadian National Research Council. The Canadian records comprised about 750 sightings. Less complete records have been maintained in the United Kingdom, Sweden, Denmark, Australia, Greece, in the United States, CUFOS, and of course MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, Bellevue, Colorado, and they continue to log sightings reported to the public to this day. So, guys, like I said, when people say there's no evidence, there's no, proof, there's no this, there's no that, it's complete nonsense. You have MUFON, the FBI files, the Canadian files, the Soviet Union, the KGB. It's just an endless rabbit hole of UFOs being documented all throughout our history. And I think it's laughable or just ridiculous to say that every single one of these sightings are man-made craft or a case of mistaken identity or weather balloons, atmospheric phenomenon, something of that nature. We also have the National UFO Reporting Center, is generally considered the most comprehensive and reliable UFO sighting database. Norfolk has been documenting UFOs since 1974. What's that, about 50 years, accumulating a vast database of almost 170,000 reported sightings, primarily from the United States. They also offer interactive maps, stats. And here's the thing. All of these databases that we went through, if you get into these and start digging around, it's another link and another link and another file and another database. There's literally hundreds of them. And, last but not least, just the modern day UFO community. We're talking about Facebook, YouTube, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, just the internet, Google, all of these, channels out here, and these UFO and investigators that have compiled their own listings, like, people like John over at the Black Vault, for example, just has a vast, amount of documents through the FOIA Act, the Freedom of Information Act, and now, with the new president, we are getting a lot of new documents released, okay, full transparency on this UFO topic, okay, and then, you have to look at the influence of social media. Look at channels like Secure Team 10, or, hey, just even like Third Phase of Moon, MUFON, these channels, these personalities, the Jeremy Corbell, right, the Bob Lazars, the all these guys, even Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan podcast, they reach millions and millions and millions of people daily, not even weekly, daily. So we live in an era where information travels just lightning fast. So it's almost impossible to document all the cases now. I mean, databases, websites, it's an endless rabbit hole. The NASA files, the Apollo files, I mean, it just goes on and on. So when someone tells me that there is no evidence and there's no proof of the existence of UFOs, it's just utterly ridiculous. In closing, okay, I'll say this. When someone asks me, like, what is the best proof that you know of or that you have that UFOs exist? And, I kind of answer it like this. I can point you to ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's some cases, here's some STS, some NASA missions, here's an Apollo video, here's some, NASA photo IDs, here's the report on Roswell, here's USS Nimitz, here's Rendlesham Forest, here's this, here's that. But really, it's almost like being a lawyer in a courtroom. I can say, well, I would look at the NASA files, and here's a few places to start. So it's very hard. It's almost like you're building a case for a defendant, and it's literally impossible to name one. Like, here it is right here. It's a 3-minute video. This is going to convince you. And that just doesn't exist. And rarely do we get that kind of proof and evidence in anything, so just that rock solid, just irrefutable proof. So, when people ask me that, it's a collective effort, just like an attorney building a case for a defendant or a client or whatever. So again, if someone said Nocturnal News, what is the best UFO evidence ever? I would say the NASA files, and again, here they are. Here's, my top 10 files or videos or photos. All right, so there you have it, guys. Look, just a brief history of ufology. I mean, we're at about 15, 17 minutes here. And again, we didn't even scratch the surface, okay? So, if anyone ever asks you, just say, look, we can go back to Project Grudge, Project Sign, Blue Book, and let's start there. And I can walk you through Roswell, through NASA, through Rendlesham Forest, through the Phoenix Lights, through all these, Shag Harbor, the Chicago O'Hare incident, all of these different cases that have really, I would argue to this day, they have not been debunked. And that's the case that you make. So the USS Nimitz is another, prime example. So you guys tell me below, what do you think? Did I miss anything? I know, there's probably other these agencies out there. There's so many damn acronyms out there. It's hard to keep up. But I think I did a pretty good job, rattling off about like 20 of them. So anyway, guys, all right, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about the, UFO history. Do you think disclosure is coming? Do you think that we've already proven UFOs are real? Is it still on the fence? I would say we've proven it, but it's a collection of evidence.